everybody!
What's up? I'm Sarah the Rebel.
And I'm OhCatrina.
And this is Woman Up Podcast. In case you're new here, this is a show where two feminist crazy cat lady chicks talk about geeky stuff, sometimes with our friends who we'll introduce you to in just a moment.
Yay!
Every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. we run down our favorite nerdy news of the week, and then we talk about our chick picks, and then we move on to our main topic.
Yay! You have the entire script in front of you, and I'm not good at...
Girl, and I asked you to put that
Hey, you know what, though? If you guys are listening on allgames.com in the future, hello, welcome. And if you want to find us on iTunes, we are on iTunes and on allgames.com/whoop.
Whoop.
Whoop!
Whoop. That's the easy place to find us. Today's guest is Tamara Brooks, a well-rounded nerd. Tell us about yourself a little.
I enjoy nerdery of very many levels, as I am well-rounded. I know way too much trivia about things, and remember far too many theme songs of things that I watched as a child. And I like Wonder Woman a lot, and I hope that she doesn't suck in the Batman vs. Superman movie, or else I'm gonna maybe have to set fire to something.
It's my constant hope. I hope this woman doesn't suck.
I don't have a problem with the casting. That's never. There's things, other things, and what else should I talk about?
That's it. That's good. We can talk more. They can get to know you as we actually go through the questions.
Not to pull us too far off topic, but Gal Gadot has recently done... Well, I forgot exactly which interview she was in, but she was...
Vogue.
Vogue. She was like, Wonder Woman is not there to be a love interest. Yeah. She doesn't serve anyone else's story.
Which I'm appreciative of.
So I'm hoping that that's true and that it's not like the way she views it.
Right, because sometimes actors and actresses have to trick themselves to like feel for a role.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
And that may be the truth. Like, and also like going forward, that's maybe more of the case, because I think they just finished. Either they just finished filming Wonder Woman or about to finish it, because they start filming Justice League like next month.
Yeah.
So from what I've seen of that, that looks like it's on target.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Wonder Woman. Not so excited for BVS. BVS.
I'm not excited for it at all. I don't plan to see it unless other people go see it and go, Sarah, oh my god, we were all so wrong.
A Patreon to raise $15 for someone else to pay for me to see that movie.
Yeah, hey, Skype and Clout. If anybody wants to send me some perks, I'll go see BVS. But either way, today we are talking the history of women in comics.
Yes.
Yes, but before that...
It's time for...
Newsflash!
We haven't quite figured out that noise. We're
working on it. The only one we have solidified is like chick picks. So
right,
and that one's we've got that. You'll see that one in a second. There are a couple cool news bits this week. The Ghostbusters trailer was released, and we also got the international trailer today. So thoughts real quick before we go into the big topic about it.
Right. So basically the trailer did not impress me. When I watched the first one, I thought, wow, this is pandering to me with the dun, 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 doing the Ghostbusters theme as a piano. I was like, okay, you're trying to get me to feel feels for it. Cool. And then you presented me with the ghost from the Michael Jackson music video Ghost. Or maybe a Power Rangers episode about ghosts. I don't know. Where's your budget? Did you not have a budget for ghosts? Maybe you should have gone with practical effects then, because
technically that's what they did. Just as a little context, those were real people. There were LED lights, and then they edited on top of that.
Oh, then maybe they should have tried some CGI. It looks hideous. It looks like I'm about to be on a ride. I gotta put my 3D glasses on at the park. It's terrible. And then I also personally, what I enjoyed about Ghostbusters, the movie, is that they were people playing it straight, right? They were a bunch of motherfuckers who were like, oh shit, there's ghosts? That sucks. And then they worked to fix it. And they had their quirks because they were human beings, characters with their own quirks. And their deadpan reaction to things that made it feel really like realistic, like how I would react to something, for example, is what made it funny. So when you then present me with these caricatures, okay, we've got the quirky nerd, and we've got the one who just doesn't get it, and then we've got the one who's the go-getter, we can do this team, and then we've got the sassy black woman. I was just like, I could have used some characters. That was my feels on it.
Fair enough.
I'm of two minds of it. The first thing is that somewhat obviously the first trailer is designed to parallel the original. So in that respect, they may be forcing certain things to appear a certain way that
trailer sucked.
Yeah, to appear the way that it maybe isn't actually in the film. So it was so not only is it made to parallel the original film, but it's also made to give you examples of the comedy that you're accustomed to from each of the women. So you have Melissa McCarthy doing physical humor and falling down and getting hit. You have,
I did laugh when she got slapped. That's when I laughed.
People getting slapped in movies.
It's funny.
Kristen Wiig kind of doing the quirky, straight, like aside kind of thing. You have Kate McKinnon, National Treasure, being, weird and goofy, which is her thing. And then you have Leslie Jones, who's kind of like sort of early Eddie Murphy. Like that's her brand. So I think that for those purposes and for the audience that is attempting to reach, that's probably working. So I also know that most trailers for Paul Feig movies make you...
Is that how you say his name?
I think it's Feig.
Yeah, it's Feig.
I thought it was Feig. I've been saying it wrong in my head for like a year.
Awful.
Feige.
You're the worst. Feige. Like,
Feige is Kevin Feige.
Yeah, exactly. Feig. The trailers for his movies tend to not be as enjoyable as the movies.
Yes.
So that's another thing to keep in mind. So,
I didn't know Spy was so fucking amazing until I watched it on a flight, and I was like, why did I miss this?
Bridesmaids I also thought was better than the trailers. So
much. Yeah, I'm pretty much along the lines of you guys. I was really underwhelmed by the first trailer. I am slightly more comfortable with the second trailer because we got more time with the characters. We got to see a little bit more, and I'm not as bothered by the ghosts, I guess, but it's just like the movie seems like a real pretty, like when you get like a cardboard box as a kid, your mom decorates it and makes it into a house and does all this nice stuff for it, but it's still a fucking cardboard box. Like, it's a cardboard box. And so it's like, it's kind of, I wish it were amazing, but it is not amazing. And that's really upsetting to me because every fucking time something that has to do with women is not amazing, like the top of the top, it's just like, this is shit, this is dumb, blah, blah, blah. And then when it's great, they're like, this isn't so great. So,
yeah, that's basically what they say regardless of how good it is. So.
There's like no winning here. Like, we can't even really defend it.
So, real quick, my cat has discovered a bunch of Q-tips and is now flinging them around.
Oh, beautiful.
So, if we could just pause for one quick second while I get those away from him.
We were
no, not my toys,
he was
not my
going
toys.
Where these come from.
Why did you take
He
them?
was throwing them into the air, you guys. I was very distracted while you were talking. Okay, so the second thing we wanted to briefly touch on for the Ghostbusters trailer is, for many people, myself included, the initial response was, oh, your black character is A, not a scientist, B, is a stereotypical angry, sassy black woman, C, literally slaps somebody in the trailer, and works for the subway. Cool. Why you do that?
And Leslie Jones responded, and her basic message was, why can't normal people be Ghostbusters? And I get you. I understand that. But why couldn't Kristen Wiig be that normal person?
Yes.
Like, I don't understand why it's that big of a... Like, if you need a normal person, why can't you just have... Like, Kristen Wiig would be the perfect normal straight man person.
Melissa McCarthy does
Or
that
Melissa
well as
McCarthy.
well.
Yeah, they do it really well. Like, Kate McKinnon has to be a weirdo, but, like, those two had a role that you could have assigned to them, so...
Right.
I feel like that's a big mess up.
And I don't know, it felt kind of like, of course, Leslie is defending her character.
Yeah.
She chose to play that character after all, and she often plays characters that are pretty similar, so it's not that surprising to me. But when people bring it up as like, oh, see, this is why it doesn't matter, she's fine with it, then I like to bring up the article on Ernie Hudson that just went up on EW pretty recently.
And he's kind of talked about this before.
Yes. Where Ernie is talking about the fact that he originally had a great backstory where he was a normal freaking person because they were originally going to cast Eddie Murphy is what their goal was. And when they got him, they dropped him down to his current story, and he always felt hurt and sad that his character didn't get to be as cool as the other characters, didn't get to have as much of a role as the other characters, wasn't as fleshed out as the other characters. Tamara, do you have any thoughts on those two articles?
Yeah, I mean, it's early yet. As a true Libra, I see both sides of the thing. I don't think... The only problem with her being an MTA worker is that if they don't actually make her a character, and they just make her a stereotype, that is where the problem lies.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being an MTA worker.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with... And by all accounts, from what I understand, there is more to her character at that. And if you look at the trailers, especially, you know, you can kind of tell they're cutting around.
There's a lot that okay, so this is
what
the
she
one.
said.
Yeah, that's the one thing that really interests me is that in every shot, she's like the absolute focus of her shots. And
That's true.
like when she's encountering the ghost, there's this glowing ball in front of her.
Mhm.
So if for some reason Leslie Jones is our hero with the MacGuffin, like I can deal with that. But
And I really do feel like it's a thing where there's the academic side where they're just kind of like, this is the stuff that's happening versus her actually knowing what's really, like, you guys are over here doing this stuff, but did you know that there's, you know, a river of slime under Central, you know, or what, you know,
right.
to bring up Ghostbusters too. So I think that there is more to her character. I think they're deliberately cutting around that, but I also think it's kind of shitty that you don't have more diversity in it than just Leslie Jones. You know,
We're the Latina Ghostbusters.
Right, I was about to say, what about any other
yeah,
any other kind of woman?
But at the same time, I'm like looking at the cast. I'm like, well, Kate McKinnon's really awesome. They're all really awesome. So I'm like, I can't be really mad because it's not like any of them are terrible.
Right, and I took a little bit of umbrage with Leslie's way she chose to say it was okay. It would be like, oh, you guys are acting like MTA workers are bad. You should feel terrible for saying that MTA workers are bad. Blah 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 blah. Did any of us say that being the hired help or being a maid was bad?
No.
Back when we complained when black women were only playing these roles? No one is saying that. No one is dissing these types of jobs. And to try to say that was kind of a misdirection that I felt was real sneaky.
Yeah, it's a question about representation and you know, I don't know if she is in a position where she can talk about that yet, because again, we still don't know what her character is fully.
Right. Yeah.
So if there's something else to defend there, she cannot talk about it at this point. And then the Ernie Hudson thing, you know, his character is like a former military officer, and he was supposed to be there in the beginning, and you know, I would like to have read an early version of the script to see what that was like, and kind of the way that went down, which was, oh, we have Bill Murray, let's cut this other guy more. That kind of sucks. So, you know, and you know, he was our favorite character growing up. Like, we loved Winston, and they slightly helped in the second movie because he had more to do. Like, he had the kind of hero scene when, you know, the bathroom's on fire and he kicks it in. You know, so he got a little bit more shine in there, but it's still kind of, you know, there's three guys and then this dude. Like, that's kind of what the first movie is, even though there's some of that. There's some, you know, he's a key figure in some of the scenes where they're explaining, like, how terrible the threat is and everything like that, but it's still kind of...
Yeah. I mean, like, the basic rule that I have been taught and that I've learned is that if you can, then why don't you? Like, if your character's race does not matter to their character, then why don't you just make them black? Like, if their occupation does not pertain or, like, fits in a better way, then why don't you make them a scientist? Like, you're writing a story, you're not attaining to history. Like,
and there's an overabundance right now of really awesome, great comedic actresses. And, I mean, SNL in and of itself is the women are all killing it, and the dudes are...
forgettable.
Like, some of them are really solid, some of them just like, what are you even doing here? But again, personal taste. But, you know, like, for the last even 4 or 5 years, like, everybody, like, pretty much all the women on the show have been really quite good. The ones that were able to, you know, get on the screen. So there was an overabundance of women where I actually had a day where I was just tweeting, like, I was like 15 tweets of great comedic female actresses that could have been in the movie. So it's there's so many riches.
Yes.
Right.
So many riches. So I'm not down on the film or anything at this point. You know, there's not enough information for me to go one way or another, and I think that I'm trying to be fair because I want it to succeed. So.
We always have this where Katrina is usually the more positive one, like I wait to see, and I'm always the negative one. So I am actually negative. I was really sad about this trailer because I was actually looking forward to this movie, and I now feel like the comedy is not going to suit me. Not necessarily that it will be a bad movie, but that the type of comedy they're going for is not my style. My cat is literally doing the most today. It's like...
He is very busy.
I feel like he saw where you put the Q-tips and is now searching.
He has never been like this. Like, we'll normally hear him in the kitchen maybe once in a while, but he is actively prowling this area, touching things. Anyway, moving on. Joseph Gordon-Levitt drops out of the Sandman movie.
Disappointing.
Very.
Disappointing!
Specifically because he did it over creative differences, which, like, it worries me because you have Neil Gaiman on that team, and he, like, worships the ground that man stands on.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about what kind of position Neil Gaiman is being put in the first place. And who the fuck is telling Joseph Gordon-Levitt not to tell the story the way it's supposed to be. Because I don't trust a lot of white dudes. Just, I hate to say that here in public. I don't trust a lot of white guys, but I trust Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Neil Gaiman to write a fucking story.
Right.
Like, I trust them of all people, so it's just very, what is happening?
Right, he was the reason so many people didn't feel terrified about this happening.
Yeah.
Because they said, look at him. He is a true fan. He is fighting for this. We know we have an advocate. And now we do not have that advocate.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know what the creative difference was.
We
don't know poop in this movie. No poop in the movie. Sorry.
What do you mean? Joseph, we can't put a bag of poop in this scene.
Did you just vomit when you said poop a little?
We can't put a bag of poop on fire in this scene. Anyway.
I quit.
Sorry. I quit.
Do it without me then. I'll see you in hell.
This scene must have 6 pigs in it. No more and no less.
I'm sorry, dude. We can only do 5.
No, it must be 6.
I quit.
I'm out.
But yeah, it's worrisome.
I mean, and Legendary is not a terrible...
Oh wait, it's Legendary?
Yeah, it's Legendary. So I don't know if they're trying to... I don't know what they're trying to do with it. Like, I don't know what Warner was trying to do with it, and I don't know what Legendary was trying to do with it.
Yeah, because it was the studio shift that made him really quit. Yeah.
So whatever Legendary has... I would guess maybe it was a budgetary thing, even. I mean, like, because I don't think they're co-producing it. I think it just shifted down to Legendary, which has decent budgets, but doesn't necessarily have that Warner Brother pocket. So I'm wondering if maybe that there were some problems with that and things that they wanted to cut.
Well, I also think sometimes Legendary makes really questionable decisions. I mean, look at Seventh Son. That could have been a good movie. But decisions were made that led to it not quite being a good movie.
That's my favorite
And
line.
even Pacific Rim. We all love Pacific Rim as a cult classic. Like, we didn't watch it and say, this was a very good movie. Like, no, a woman didn't speak for the first, hour of that movie. Like, it was terrible. But we loved it anyway because monsters and stuff. So I don't necessarily have the most faith in them as a studio, especially now that they've been bought as well. We don't know what kind of forces are at work there in the decision-making process.
I mean, maybe it turns out not terrible. Maybe it ends up being good. We don't know.
There you go with that optimism again.
Yeah, I do that on occasion.
Fuck this movie, it's gonna suck now.
See, she's taking all the optimism. I don't even have to say anything.
I'm nice and neutral about it with the optimistic twist. Except for Batman vs. Superman, which I think is gonna be bullshit. So everything else, it's gonna be like an hour of just painful,
horrible shit.
Horrible.
See, I'm not paying for any movie that makes me that forces me to look at Jesse Eisenberg's face. So
why have they done that to Lex? Lex is such a good character, and they did that.
They're
like your hair.
Who's the douchiest person in the world? Oh, let's get Jesse Eisenberg.
Why? I can't even see his fucking face. Wait, and that's not a compelling villain. I need to be able to stand his face. I need to somehow maybe even think from his side he's got a point.
He is Lex Luthor Jr.
Oh,
on top of that,
terrible.
So
he's Lex Luthor Jr.
So there's possibility that there is a Lex Luthor that is actual Lex Luthor.
Oh my god, wait, if they did that, you're right. If they were smart enough to do that, where he was the jokey and then it was a real Lex Luthor, then I would be like, oh, you got me.
Also,
the way they did with Captain Phasma.
Yeah. And I also feel like everything that we've seen in the trailers is only from the first hour of the movie. I feel like that movie is gonna be a dark side invasion in the last half of it, or something like that.
If the last half could just be Darkseid and Wonder Woman fighting, I think I'd appreciate that movie.
Because Jason Momoa.
Aquaman showing up and just dripping For like
Oh.
for like 10 minutes.
just took a
Look, okay, so 40 minutes of Wonder Woman and
just a
Darkseid
slow
fighting.
motion like 360 roll around.
40
him.
minutes of a fucking
For 10
turtle
minutes.
ass,
His
and then
butt
that.
is so nice. I have a picture on my Pinterest of his butt.
And then he just starts doing a haka dance
the
because it's
picture.
great.
I took the picture.
I hope everyone in Atlantis is Pacific Islander. Like
Yes!
That would be so
Oh,
much
that'd be
sense.
so
I don't
sick.
understand why they don't ever do that. Hi, look at all the people who lived and breathed water things. Could we maybe have some of them sometimes?
Let's put some people in the water.
You know,
Yeah.
Waterfield.
And I think it's interesting that people are like, oh, there's a rumor that Flash and Cyborg in it. Oh, this might be confirmed. Like, of course they're in it. They're cast.
Yeah, they're
Anybody who's
cast.
been cast at this point is going to be in this movie, even if it's only for like 6 seconds. They're going to be in this
I
film.
hope they just show up at the end, one but like the Lord of the Rings ending where it keeps going dark, then it comes back up and Cyborg's like,
Kidding.
hey,
Just kidding.
did somebody order a pizza? And then like it goes dark, and then it comes back up and it's like, hello, I'm not from Mars. And then it goes down and it comes back up and he's like, anybody order a big tuna fish? And just like goes dark, goes down. And then they're all just standing in the living room going, well, I guess we should form a club so no one else can come. And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
Yes. Nobody invites Superman. Oh shit, I already did. Oh no.
Superman is like listening from a mile away.
And it just yells, I hear you motherfuckers.
Fuck these guys, man. I hate them.
Let
I'm
me
joining
get
their
on-
club. Just
I'm getting on the Facebook group right now.
I'm going to write such a scathing article about this.
The
Just
Justice
wait.
League or like the Fustus Beaks. Ooh, that's gold. Give me a picture of Spider-Man, Superman.
Sick burn, Clark. Sick burn.
Why don't we rate these movies?
I don't know.
I don't.
Let's do the work.
Let's rate Ghostbusters. Let's do it.
Yes.
Okay, so final pieces
finally,
of news.
we have two pieces of news we're going to combine because they're both very little. Agent Carter's finale had the lowest views of the season. I personally don't think it's going to get renewed. I think people just did not know that they were missing out on a fucking fun-ass show.
I don't think that it's as much of a concern, the numbers, because most people watch afterwards. So I think in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, if they're still really low from the combined like DVR totals, and then maybe be a little bit nervous. But I don't think they're gonna cancel it. I think they'd give it another season.
I do think it's gonna get canceled, and I think it's because they made poor decisions this season. Because at the core of the story was a very compelling female villain.
Who is
And
the shit?
The shit, amazing! Whitney Frost is the best goddamn female villain I've ever seen on
Ever
screen.
in my life.
Ever.
She's amazing.
And
I liked
she
her
never-
better than Agent Carter.
So here's the goddamn problem. There's the fucking problem. Peggy, her whole fucking story was, who's she gonna end up with? Who's she gonna end up with?
Right.
And that was the whole thing. That was it. Peggy and fucking Whitney did not talk until the end.
And her making a bunch of terrible decisions.
Yeah, horrible
She
decisions.
just said YOLO through the entire season.
Yeah, like she went to LA and LA did all this crazy shit to her mind that like she became an LA person and started
Yes.
making stupid decisions.
Yes.
So
But Whitney Frost, though. Whitney Frost and her
Amazing.
boyfriend. I'm not going to
Amazing.
tell you what it is in case, because most of you guys haven't watched it, which is really sad. But her boyfriend at the end of the show, her and him are my OTP of the entire universe.
he is like he's like, you know what, you are crazy and your face is broken, but God, I fucking love you. I
and
don't
he's
give
like,
a shit.
I love your face like
I'm
this,
gonna-
because that means power. I was like, oh, God.
I'm gonna support everything you do. And I'm just like, oh, amazing. So it really sucked because you had this great female hero, or this great heroine from the last season and from the movies who always made the right decisions, was always the smartest, always had shit together. You had this amazing female villain, and the whole time they were like, whoop, whoop.
Right. There was no outsmarting. There was none of
No.
the things that make a spy show a spy show.
Yeah, there was nothing between them.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. Like the big thing between them was Wilkes, and Wilkes. Honestly, I think they ruined that too. So it really
Yes.
fucking
But
sucks.
I will say the final episode actually brought in more spy things, and it was actually great. The final episode was really good. And this is my problem. I think the short format does not work for Agent Carter. I don't think that the writers can handle telling those kind of complicated stories in that short amount of time. I think they often try to tell a story that is just a little too long or a little too complicated because they're like, oh, 8 episodes, it's got to be one cohesive story versus an episodic kind of thing where there's a background story plot line, like most shows.
Yeah, but I also think that there's some, like you were saying, there's some shows that are good for short runs and some that aren't. And I feel like, this one should be, like, what was it, 10? Because it's 5 nights, 2-hour nights. So this one really should be
I
like
think it's
13. No, this show should be like 13. Like this is what that, because if you're doing a spy show, unless it's unless it's way short or like it's miniseries length or it's like 6 episodes, then you need time for it to breathe. And some of the most compelling stuff that you have for all this stuff is her kind of being on the road to building S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's the stuff that's compelling. So if you don't have enough time for her to do that,
and it's not in there. It's not in there at all. And on top of that, like what you were saying, with a lot of the focus for Peggy this season was on love interest. That would be fine in a longer show.
Yeah,
it works fine in longer shows that are already on air about superheroes. Which
we
don't
also
have time for that.
And we also don't know how much of this stuff was mandated.
And that's also, it's a big thing for me because by the end of the season, I didn't like either of Peggy's love interests. They had both made decisions that I couldn't support. They had both acted in ways that I didn't like, and I didn't want to see end up with Peggy. So it's like, on top of the fact that I didn't like the love triangle in the first place, I couldn't even support either pairing. Because all 3 of them were making shitty, stupid decisions to hurt each other.
I love Sousa, you shut your mouth. He's a great man.
I love Sousa, but his decision making
I thought he was the most rational of all the characters this
I'm gonna run away to Los Angeles to get a girlfriend so that I can
No, that's
sad
not
myself.
what he did. He set
Sad
up his
myself
own
out of that.
department and he ruled fairly. He knew how to manipulate people. He knew how to compromise. He was an amazing chief and he needed his own office. You go to hell, Katrina. You're wrong.
I love Sousa, and I do support Peggy and Sousa. Just because there was the way Wilkes acted this season was just like, no, babe, don't do that. Oh, like that's how I felt about him this season. It's like, no, you're supposed to be good, you're supposed to be great, and then you're not. But either way, long and short, it was very disappointing. I think the decisions made were very bad for such a short series, and I think that a lot of the things that made Agent Carter great were not on full display this season. So.
But that Whitney Frost.
Frost.
She needs her own show.
She needs,
you know.
Yeah. Hopefully they have that in like a comic run. I would like to see Whitney's story again. So.
Yeah, I feel like ABC being owned by Disney. And having plans,
owned by Disney now.
Having plans for certain characters and having certain things structured will give it one more season. That's what I think.
Gallivant can come back. That's so can Agent Carter. Gallivant had like 5 viewers. I was one of them. Loved it.
I loved Gallivant.
Loved it, but
Tad the Dragon.
I loved Gallivant, but if that could have 5 viewers and come back, then so can Agent Carter. Yeah. If Once Upon a Time can focus almost primarily on a terrible relationship, then so can Agent Carter.
So can Agent
and
Carter.
I feel like you have to kind of view like these ratings on a sliding scale because there are so many people who are not watching TV the regular way, and also who the hell knows Nielsen viewers? Like nobody, like that's like I don't know who has those. I don't know that.
I assume they're all in the Midwest where I can't talk to people.
So it's a sliding scale. So you have to think like if a show gets 2 or 3 million in the demo live, in like the 18 to 26 demo live, that's actually really, really good. Because most 18 to 26-year-olds aren't watching that show live.
No.
So anything, that's kind of higher up is going to mean more.
Yeah.
And I feel like it did pretty decently in that demo. I'd have to look because I don't remember what it is. But I feel like, like there are shows that get like 4 million viewers that are still on like 4 or 5 seasons. And I'm like, who is watching this show?
Tell you what, the 100 is not going to have very many views anymore, but that's a whole other story for a whole other time.
Y'all motherfuckers know you're still going to watch that.
I'm not. I was mad. Dude, I haven't watched Game of Thrones in like 2 years because I was mad at Game of Thrones, so I stick to my word.
So we actually talked about that longer than I thought. So
sorry.
You guys should just know that Women of Power Month is a thing.
Yes. If you are into Marvel games, primarily mobile ones, there are going to be a lot of cool new female characters coming to your roster. So if you have a great female superheroine that you really like, then look out for her because she might be coming to your game.
Coming to a game near you. Now it's time for Chick Picks.
Chick Picks.
We scared my cat. I'm sorry. My first chick pick is to go onto Hulu and watch Agent Carter.
Yay! My first chick pick is also to support Agent Carter. Sarah's going to link you in the chat. There is a specific way that you can call ABC and vote to have Agent Carter renewed. So that is now copied into the chat. Follow the image, call the number that it says to call, and press the buttons it says to press so we can get Agent Carter renewed.
Be a sheep.
Please be a sheep right now so that we can get more Agent Carter and hopefully longer seasons and a better story.
And my pick is I'm actually going to be on a panel at WonderCon called Geek Wars, The Nerds Awaken. So it's a Star Wars panel focusing on various diversity topics. So it's Tony Kim, who's crazy for Comic-Con on Twitter. And
I love
then,
Tony.
let's see, I get everybody's name right. Jennifer Landa, Amy Ratcliffe, Emily Ong, Ivy Doom Kitty, and Chris Gore. And myself.
Yay!
I know all of those people except for like one.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, look, all those people that I know.
Go see all of our friends on that panel at WonderCon Saturday at 1.
Saturday at 1. Yes.
Saturday, 1 p.m. Geek Wars panel.
Yep. Like I feel like running up to the camera and being like, look at this! Look at the screen. Okay.
We'll give them your link to your Twitter and everything at the end of this so they can see it too.
Sweet.
So my next chick pick is because we're talking about comics. I wanted to link you guys to a comic that I think is pretty cool. That's the link to check out the alternate cover, but if you want to read it right away, it is already out. I've never tried to say it out loud. I think it's Niobe.
Niobe.
Niobe, there we go.
Yes, I asked at the convention.
I'm Niobe.
I'm Niobe. Niobe. I'm not Yobe.
What? What a thing to say.
Niobe.
So it is a story about a wild elf.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm going to tell you about it. Go click that link, and you should go read
It's by Rue from Hunger Games.
Yes, it is by Ruth from Hunger Games. True. True facts.
Yay!
I want to trick them into reading about an elf, because they'll be like, oh, it's a little Galadriel, and they'll be like, the fuck is this bitch? That's the elf! Anyway.
My second chick pick is the Secret Lives, or Loves of Geek Girls, which had a very successful Kickstarter and continues to be an awesome, awesome series about fantasy and ladies and comics, and it's by some of my favorite people in the whole wide world, so go check that out as well.
I'm gonna combo this.
Combo!
So Legend of Wonder Woman by Renee DeLiz and Ray Dillion.
Mm-hmm.
Super awesome. It's reviving the shriveled, sad part of my heart. that was very disconcerted by certain decisions that have been made with the character recently. Mm-hmm. So it's everything that I could possibly want in a comic. So you can get it digitally for 99 cents every week, or you can pick up the collected versions in your local comic store. Also, I'm going to do Agents of the Realm by Mildred Lewis. Yay! And it's basically like multicultural Sailor Moon realness. Just serving that just goodness. So that's all I will say about it. And go find that on your local internets.
Very good.
Local internets.
Did you do Secret Loves of...
I did Secret Loves. You're on the last one for you.
Sorry. I forgot to link it. The last one is Bee and Puppy Cat by Natasha Allegri. Those comics, so if you've already read them, awesome. But if you didn't know, Natasha Allegri, who works on the show Adventure Time and Bee and Puppy Cat, also does the comic. And she is, first of all, a woman, which is cool, which is why I'm sharing. She's also mixed race, and I want to support more women who are of color in the comics industry, because as you're about to find out when we talk about the history of comics, they are a traditionally unsupported group of people within the comics industry.
My third and final chick pick is Urbance, which is a new animated series. It's not super new. It's actually been in creation over the past year or two, but the pilot is finally online for you guys to view. It is so amazingly animated. Just the way that the characters move, just that in itself is amazing. But it's also a great story about sexuality. It stars almost an entire cast of color, and it is just amazing. It's awesome. I love it. So yeah, go check out Urbance. I say Urbance because I like the way it sounds like dance.
I wanna Urbance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody.
In context with the series, because the sex stuff.
Yeah, see what we did there? Mm-hmm. Alright, now it's time for Heads Up!
Woman Up! Heads Up, 7 Up.
I always forget to say Heads Up.
It's all good. I forgot to say the first part.
So, in case you have forgotten where you are, we are talking a little brief history of women in comics. Now, again, I want to highlight that this is brief. because we only have about 20 minutes. We're probably going to go a little
Sorry.
over. we talked a lot. We had feelings.
We got carried away.
All kinds of
And
feelings.
it is a fascinating history, and I really, really encourage you, at the very least, hop on Wikipedia and search women in comics, and just give it a read, because there's so much that you don't know, and that I would bet you don't know, because I didn't know. So we're going to start off with the older things. Oh, sorry, I do want to just give you a quick background about why this is our topic. So, the week I was coming back from Lake Tahoe, I think it was last week, maybe it was the week before. You know, time is a fluid structure for me. I got into a fight with a guy who claimed to be a comics writer, who has many followers, and it was mostly about the casting of Iron Fist and the fact that he didn't think that anybody but a white person should play Iron Fist, which is a fair, reasonable opinion to have. You are allowed to have your opinions, that's fine. Unfortunately, he chose to express this by saying normal people don't care. We took umbrage with this because are we not normal people? Like, you get to be normal because you're a white guy, but I don't get to be normal because I care about, I don't know, different ethnicities and genders having representation in comics? Who the fuck made you god of deciding? Anyway, we got into a long fight. He deleted most of his tweets because I'm pretty sure people called him out and said you might lose your job off of this stuff. He said some horrible things, but among those things that he said was that women and black people need to wait their turn because white men were creating comics in the 40s, and those are the characters that have stuck because there were so many of them, and if black people and women want comic characters like them, then they need to be creating them, and then they need to be patient. Because I pointed out that we are creating those characters, and he said, well, you need to be patient. If you don't know why this is problematic, it is because women and minorities have been trying to be a part of the comics industry since comics first were made. Since the very first person drew a stick figure and a speech bubble. Any other thoughts, Sad, before we dive in?
No, let's dive right in. Let's
Cool.
go.
So some of the interesting ladies that we wanted to talk about, first of all, was Barbara Fisk Calhoun. Did you want to talk a little bit about her? Because I know you were the one who peeped me to her.
Well, yeah, I was reading up about her, and so she was a creator in the 40s/50s. And what I found was really interesting about her is that she grew up in the South. She had a northerner mother, I believe.
No, opposite. She was southerner mom, raised in the South.
Raised in the South. So anyway, so basically when she was growing up in her like proper Southern family, like her mother forbade her from dating a Mexican boy that she liked. And then also she decided, well, you know, fuck you, I'm gonna marry a Jewish dude when I get older, and she did. But she also started this really long-running artist commune that's in like Vermont. So like she worked for which comic is it? National Comics? No, not National. See, Harvey Comics. Harvey Comics. She worked for Harvey Comics, and she created all these different characters. And so one of them is called Girl Commandos, and basically it was a Soviet, a Chinese, a Russian, and an American woman all coming together to be this like secret war platoon. And it's like it's such a great
Fighting Nazis.
Fighting Nazis.
Just a girl group fighting Nazis.
How dope is that? That's super
Amazing.
dope.
Amazing.
And this is in what,
1940.
1940. And then she had a second thing called Blonde Bomber, which was she was a camera woman, a chemist, and a crime fighter.
And she was a regular feature in Green Hornet, so she was an actual.
So she was an actual thing. So I thought that was really kind of cool. And then she got out of comics and, you know, all this other kind of stuff. But what I thought was really interesting about it is that even at that point, you have, you know, women and, you know, and then also other people of color doing these comics that are specifically, purposefully inclusive. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that or don't know that because so much of this stuff got lost because of the comics code. If you actually do a search, there's a website that has all of the women superheroes and characters that kind of came out in that time period, and they have all these different, like Miss Satan is one of them. There's one called Black Cat, which is not like Spider-Man Black Cat, it's a totally different Black Cat. There's so many of these characters that you would never know because they suppressed them all.
Right. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Ruth Roche. Maybe it's Roach. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to give her some stuff she don't have. She's another. So both of these women are writers in the golden age of comics, the age when all of these characters that we know, were established. So this idea that women were not currently writing and doing art at that time. Just not true.
Mhm.
So, unlike Calhoun, who's an artist, Roche was a writer and eventually became an editor. She worked on Phantom Lady, Senorita Rio, which I've never heard of, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, Kanga, Camilla, Flamingo, which was a female-led adventure comic. So she did a lot of stuff around action women and creating women of action, which sometimes we hear about a lot of comics that are about women or comic characters that are women that were made by men.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was interesting to point out times when female writers have created female characters back in the motherfucking 40s.
Mm-hmm.
1948. She was an editor already.
That guy is a comic writer? I don't know. I wouldn't hire him if you didn't know
wouldn't
that.
hire no lady. There was a really funny moment. I can't remember which comic artist it was, but it was a black man. I can't remember who it was because I looked up like 1,000 comic writers today. But the editor was asked, "Oh, did you have any qualms with hiring a black man as your writer?" And he goes, "Let's say his name's John. John, get in here. You're black. You're fired." And it was just like,
yeah.
Do you feel stupid now for asking that question? I hope you do.
Also, as Wonder Woman is one of the only female characters to survive that entire period, if you look at her publishing history, you can see the arc of all of that. And also, it's fairly, a lot of the early stories were influenced by, the creator's wife and their special friend. Their various
men listening to women so they can write better female characters?
Two different women.
Crazy.
What?
And so, if you look at her history, one of the big complaints I find currently is that, Wonder Woman doesn't have rogues gallery.
Mm-hmm.
You know why Wonder Woman doesn't have a rogue gallery? Because when all the characters that Superman and Batman tend to now have as their long-standing rogues, she's a fucking romance comic. Or they depowered her and she was a spy fighting a giant humanoid.
Please look up that comic where she's a spy and look at the cover and go, what?
It is a humanoid egg with a fucking Fu Manchu.
Oh my God.
It's pretty great.
Wow.
Pretty great in a terrible, terrible
Yeah.
way. Why you do that?
Because if you look at a lot of her covers there's all these weird there's a monster from the water trying to marry her, or there's all these weird, and then there's one where it's Supergirl and Wonder Woman, and Supergirl's going out and putting on heels and dating guys, and Wonder Woman's like, hey, maybe you should fight some crime, and she's like, no, it's fine, put on this dress, come out with me, and they're like, oh, this isn't so bad. I'm like, what are you doing? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just so
Has the whole world
happen.
burning behind them.
yeah,
it's fine.
It's really counterintuitive. Shoot. Have you seen this post? Oh my God.
So next, wanted to talk about Jackie Orms, who was pretty well known as the first African-American woman cartoonist. My cat has found the Q-tip again.
He's going to town.
Yeah.
He loves the Q-tip.
It's
Even the old cat is like, man, that kind of looks fun.
It's like a tiny baton twirler.
I've never seen him
put
this
it in the
excited.
air.
He doesn't play with toys. If I try to play with him, he freaks out and runs away. But this Q-tip has somehow made a connection with my cat, and he's found true love. I want to bring up Jackie Orms, not so much just because she's the first female black cartoonist that we all know about, but because she literally had her comics suppressed. So this was my big problem with what the guy was suggesting, is yes, women and minorities were creating characters and everything like that when they could. The vast majority of time, they weren't allowed to create the characters they wanted to create. So with Jackie, she had a comic strip where it was all black characters, and only black newspapers would carry it. And there were not a lot of black newspapers, so it failed because it couldn't make money from that. So that's an example of why it's really ridiculous to say these kinds of things to women and minorities, because we've been trying to break into this industry since the 40s and are often held back or forced to just draw white people, or forced to make it a different kind of story. And we have more stories about that further on, so that's why I brought up Jackie.
Not to defame anybody, but tell me who this guy is after the show, so I never, ever, ever buy a comic from him.
Yes, I will.
Because that's not going to happen for me.
No, well, to also bring up an interesting point that someone else pointed out, he got in a fight with about 4 people that day.
Wow.
And one of those people brought up, you're a comic writer, but you don't have a link to your comic immediately available in your bio? So I feel like he maybe wrote one thing.
Oh, one of those. I read a webcomic once.
Right.
I read a page of
Exactly,
a webcomic.
and is then claiming to be this comics writer, with a little more glam than maybe he should.
Meanwhile, people who aren't white and male don't immediately assume careers because they did something pre-pretend.
Right.
The rest of us have imposter syndrome.
Right, we're like, I'm not really a writer. I just wrote this one thing. It's not real. Like,
I'm not a journalist. I mean, this site just published all of my stories. I'm just not really a journalist,
You're
though.
right. I didn't even think about that shit.
See, and I hear you do this all the time. And I'm not really a writer. I'm like, bitch, you have published them. It is hardcover. Like, you published a book. You're an author. Meanwhile, homeboy on Twitter is like, yeah, I wrote a comic. I drew a stick figure once.
Damn it. Oh, man. So I'm just going to run through a couple more names that we won't focus on too much because we don't
I can talk about Wendy Peeney a little if you want.
Yes, go ahead, talk about Wendy Peeney.
Okay, so Wendy Peeney is one of the people I really
like
admire. First off, her name is great. Second, she created one of the most, like, her and her husband created one of the most well-known creator-owned original comics, ElfQuest, which, I mean, I don't care who you are. If you're a geek, you've probably heard of ElfQuest by
if you
title.
haven't, you're a fake geek boy!
On top of that, Wendy Peeney fucking hit the freaking ground to promote this comic. Everything she did, she was at conventions in the 70s. She was at the first Comic Cons. Not only was she doing the comic, she was also writing entire plays that would go out at Comic Cons where she would dress up as Red Sonja and her husband would be someone else, and it would script an entire hour-long show. So Wendy Peeney, I think, is one of the most admirable comic writers because she took something, high fantasy in comics is not something that, like, sells over superheroes, but she took it and she turned it into, like, a 20, 30-year legacy.
And there's a lot of people where ElfQuest was their first comic.
Yeah, ElfQuest, absolutely.
I mean,
and in case you've never read ElfQuest, the main character is, of course, an elf. He's got blonde hair, he's a nice, rogue-looking dude. The bitch he falls in love with and has all his children with, guess what race she is? Oh my god, a black elf. In the 70s? What?
Yeah.
Oh, and there's her whole people. And then also there's like 4 other kinds of elves because, hey, guess what? Elves don't just have to be one race and one type of people, you crazy fucks who write fantasy novels. And then they go on to actually have mixed race children when they have children. And like they're drawn to be mixed race. Do you know how important this was to me as a child?
Seriously.
Who was like A, addicted to fantasy, and B, is biracial. It was pretty fucking important. Just saying. I don't want to hear any of your excuses.
Like, if you don't know what ElfQuest is and you haven't read ElfQuest, I'm sorry, but you're a fake geek boy. Like, you're a fucking fake geek boy. You don't know anything about the start of comics.
Please don't be.
Like, this lady, I'm sorry, this lady was at every comic convention. This lady was at every panel. She was constantly speaking. Her and her husband fucking powered it. And so if you don't know what ElfQuest is, I don't know who you are.
Also, if you actually don't know what ElfQuest is, you should go read them.
It's really good.
Like, yes, we're making fun of you. Try not to be too hurt. We get made fun of all the time. But go read them. They're great. I mean, of course, be aware that it is, like, you know, made in the 70s, so storylines are going to seem more tropey to you, probably. But it's still great reading.
Yeah.
Next I want to talk about June Tarpe Mills. Bailey, I know you love June Tarpe Mills, but you can't be talking.
Stop mansplaining, Bailey. I did it. I told you I was going to do it.
She was one of the first major female comic artists, and she created Miss Fury. So she was the first female creator of a female superhero. So if you haven't heard of Miss Fury, go give it a look. And she, like a few other women on our list that we're not going to get to, went by a pseudonym because she didn't want people to know that she was a woman because it hurts you as a woman creator to let people know that you're a woman.
Yeah.
Still to this day. Barbara
Hills, which was her pseudonym, she would just put B. Hills because it was hard to...
J.K. Rowling. It's still happening today.
Still happening.
Yep.
Also, I'm pretty sure they just put out a new Miss Fury comic book last month.
Really? That sounds pretty awesome.
Nice.
We also had Hilda Terry, who was the first woman allowed to join the National Cartoonist Society in 1950. Her husband put her name in because he was also a cartoonist. After a year of debating, they let her in, and as soon as she got in, you know what she did? She turned around and pulled all the other ladies up behind her. A+. Rest in peace, Hilda. We won't, because we are running out of time, we won't get into all of the underground comics, but basically when the Comics Code came out, do you want to talk, I know Tamara, you and Katrina, you both feel strongly about the Comics Code. Do you guys want to talk about it briefly?
That is bullshit.
Yeah. Please, take it away.
Well, okay, so there's a lot of reading and there's a documentary, I believe, about the Comics Code too, that essentially post World War II, and this is kind of ties into McCarthyism. The Comics Code came down so that we could protect the children. So a lot of things, protect the children. So a lot of things that were just happening in comics were now, experimental voices and things like that. A lot of stuff just got squashed. So you couldn't really have people questioning authority. You couldn't really have brown people in your comic that weren't caricatures. Like that's like an actual thing.
An actual thing.
That's
like
an actual
we actually had there's a whole story in here. I'm just gonna briefly sum it up. But basically, one of the first fights with one of the most well-known fights with the comic codes was when William Gaines wanted to reprint Judgment Day. He wasn't allowed to, so he replaced it with Eye for an Eye. But it was objected to as well because the central character was black. The story was about racial bias and would not have meant anything if the main character was white. So the writers and artists and the editor fought for it. And they actually had to fight for it and end up getting rid of a scene at the end which depicted a black astronaut. So again, just evidence that this is a real thing.
Terrible systematic
erasure of women and people of color from the comics industry.
And I think pretty much any comic writer or artist that you talk to also feels very strongly against it. It still exists now. It is not nearly as terrible, obviously, but the reverberations of that, it's hard to get rid of. You know what I mean? Like it's, again, this systematic stuff. It's hard to break down, and you have to have a lot of people actively working against it in order to do that.
Right, and even how it affects you as society, right? So a lot of these women who did try to write comics or draw for comics were told by society that this was an unladylike thing to do. Yeah. We know, we've talked about it before with Disney and how they wouldn't let women artists join at first because it was not ladylike to do that sort of work. Yeah. So fighting against that stigma even today, if I asked, random little girls in the street if they want to be comic writers, just now we are maybe starting to see that that's changing. But when I was growing up, no girl I knew even considered that she could.
And that's the power of images, and that's the thing that we're fighting when we talk about representation, because it's not just that so we can see ourselves in things that we love, but it's also so that other people can actually see other people. You know what I mean? Like if you live in the middle of Ohio in a very tiny town of like 100 people, it's probably not particularly diverse. So you have never met a real life Black, Asian, Latino, Pacific Islander, whatever person in your life. So the only way that you know how people are by the images you consume. So that is why we fight about this. This is why we are loud about this. This is why we get mad about this, because you are controlling and creating a false image of the world.
Right. So again, rushing through, you guys should know in the world of manga, the names Machiko Hasegawa, Yoshiko Nishitani, Rumiko Takahashi. Those are some important names. Machiko was the first woman to write, to be an artist in manga. Yoshiko kind of changed the game. She is the reason we have all of the popular anime that we have now that involves kids and relationships and being in school and then also doing cool shit like fighting or being unicorns or whatever the fuck they do, is because of Yoshiko. She's the one who changed the face of that forever. And then Rumiko is possibly the best-selling female cartoonist of all time because she wrote Ranma 1/2 and a bunch of other things.
Special shout out to Naoko Takeuchi, who created Sailor Moon and basically revitalized the magical girl genre, which is a very, very important genre, and in my opinion.
Very obviously, very girl. Yeah, but it's also just extremely influential on the current creator landscape. Babs Tarr always has Sailor Moon shout outs in a lot of her Batgirl, a lot of her art. The
Hellcat comic right now. The manga inspiration is so evident in that comic, and P.S. it's amazing. Please go read Hellcat.
Great.
So yeah, I think a lot of people discount the influence of women and there's a cat right. People underestimate the influence of this stuff, and we get mad about it because we know about it and nobody else does. Because you want to talk about erasure and we're not there. And also, please stop saying create your own characters. Just shut the fuck up.
Just shut the fuck up. We are.
Because we do. And maybe
time.
if you wouldn't adapt it and cast white people as those characters, then everybody else would know about it too.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't difficult. Anyway, okay. Right. Oh my god.
It became like super. What is Michael he's German, right? Yeah. It became super hyper. Oh, I was very aware today because of all the promotions that he is playing a Spaniard, and I mean, even then, like most of them are white. I understand. I'm Chilean. We have descended, but it's just like
he's like German, Irish.
Irish? Like why not? Even, Spaniards are fucking sexy. Why can't you cast them?
Right.
Oh god,
it's very frustrating. And then it's also sad because sometimes things flop because of it. Because they
didn't we learn from the Prince of Persia?
Gods of Egypt.
Gods of Egypt now. And what's funny is if Gods of Egypt had just had confidence and told its own story and not tried to set it in Egypt, that's a fantasy movie that I probably would have been excited to see. I still think it's probably should have. But the fact they tried to shoehorn Egypt into it, but then weren't brave enough to actually, I don't know, put people who resembled Egyptians into it. It's another example, like, this keeps happening over and over, and they'll blame the type of movie, and they'll blame fantasy, or they'll blame women.
I'll tell you this.
I can't sell Muhammad.
The stories leading up to its release had the main cast, which are all basically white people. And then when it talked about it flopping, that was the first time I saw a picture of any brown people.
Like, oh, look, no, it wasn't what you thought.
No, it was because of the white people, yo. Nobody wanted to see it.
Real quick, I just wanted to talk about some female characters created by women, because some of them you might not have known were created by women.
And a lot of them were created by Gail Simone.
Yes.
Very recently.
Gail Simone made a lot of
Quite
characters.
a lot.
She made Agent X, Adam 4, all these people. But there's some others. So Aqualad was made by Ramona Fradon, one of the people who was brought up by that lady I talked about who got into the Cartoonist Society and pulled somebody else up. That was Ramona, was one of the first people. Cable was by Louise Simonson. Commandette by Nina Albright. Who are some other interesting ones that I think you guys would know?
Long Shot was Ann Nocenti. That's like, he's a pretty big X-Men.
Metamorpho was also by Ramona.
Yeah.
As we already talked about, Miss Fury. Miss Marvel, of course, by G. Willow Wilson. Yeah. I love saying her name, and I will say it every time.
Oh yeah, Power Pack, that was also Louise Simonson. Which I don't understand why there's not a Power Pack cartoon, by the way. That's just... We
have so many questions about cartoons.
So many questions.
Sony has the rights to it, so...
Sony has the rights for Power Pack?
Sony has the rights to Power Pack.
Still making a cartoon.
Prodigy by Christina Ware.
Yep.
Miles Morales by Sarah Pichelli. Steel, Louise Simonson. Man, that guy brought up Steel, by the way. He was like, black people love Captain America, they like Static Shock, and they're mad about Steel. And then a black person commented like, I kind of like Steel, but I guess it's okay.
Well, okay, but here's the thing. All people love Static, first of all.
Right.
How dare you not love Static Shock? He is just a delightful person.
And had one of the best theme songs of any cartoon in the 90s. So, number one. Number two, Steel is real dope, but they never use him in comics. He was in the JLU cartoon. There's one episode where it was like, you know, smart black people talking. It was Mr. Terrific and Steel and Martian Manhunter, who I do count as black, all having a conversation about stuff. Right? I'm into it.
Right.
Yep.
Ultra Girl was Barbara Randall Kessel.
Who's very nice. I met her once.
Let's see. Scandal Savage. It's my favorite. Gail Simone, of course.
Well, basically this whole, like, Black Alice also. She did a Ryan Choi Adam. That's also a Gail Simone.
Gail Simone just create all the anti-heroes we could find.
Yeah, on this particular list. The current Ragdoll. Let's see, who else? It was a good one.
Apocalypse was made by Louise Simonson.
Louise Simonson has a lot of, like, legit, like, historically really famous characters.
Yes. Typhoid Mary by Ann Nocenti. And then, of course, all the other characters who are supporting and whatnot. But
speaking of Hellcat, Patsy Walker.
Right, Patsy Walker, Ruth Atkinson, and or Bessie Herman Little. Depends on which one you want to count. So those are some of the heroes that you might not have thought. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because so often we do hear about female characters, but they're still written by men and being written by men. So about that, somebody did a little investigating. And in DC Comics' 75-year history, they have only ever hired 2 black women writers on monthly titles, Felicia Anderson and Angela Robinson, in 2009. 75 years, and Marvel has never done it. So one of the problems is y'all need to hire women writers and minority writers.
And I think there's only been one woman to write any Batman issue ever.
Gail?
No.
Oh.
Somebody else, I can't remember the
Like
name
Gail
now.
wrote that.
Katrina, you tried to
Possibly
do some
two.
investigation of Latina women in comics.
And it's basically only indie comics. And it was really disheartening because off the top of my head, when I was thinking about Latin or like Hispanic writers, I could name a billion of them and they're all men.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are artists. And not to discredit artists or what make comics breathe.
Right.
Not to discredit that, but
it is important.
it is massively disheartening, because I want to be a comics writer, because I am a writer, and to see virtually no Latina women ever working in comics out in a writing or artist job, it really hurt me today. I was very sad. I was like actually sad because I was doing the research and I'm like, there's got to be somebody, and no, most of them are coming out today, right now. The people that are coming up that really need your support, like they're, as a Latina who is aspiring to write comics, I would like to see more people like me.
And if you guys know of some, please let us know, because sometimes there are people who are mixed race or don't immediately identify for business purposes, which is completely understandable. But let us know if you know anybody, because that would be great.
Right. Oh, yeah. So you just reminded me. In 1910, George Harriman was pretty much, as far as I can tell, one of the first comic creators, and he passed as white. And he wrote on everything that he was white, and it was only when they went back and found his birth certificate, when someone else was writing about his legacy, that they even, because he claimed to be Greek, he claimed to be like all these other things.
I'm Italian.
Right.
I'm swarthy
right.
Italian.
And that's still happening even today. I mean, in case you don't know, Natasha Allegri is Latina as well, and not everybody knows that.
Yes.
So I just posted in the chat some women we would like you to check out, and of course, please feel free to tweet us at Woman Up Show if you have any other women that you think we should check out.
Yes.
But Afua Richardson, god damn. You will look at her art, and if you don't like art, maybe you won't feel this way, but if you are anyone who enjoys art, you're going to be like, ooh, when you see that shit, because it's so good. It's like eating a cake. It's so good. Gail Simone, because she's funny and an asshole.
Obviously.
G. Willow Wilson, because, have you read Ms. Marvel? It's fucking amazing. Kelly Sue DeConnick, because she's out here running shit. Oh, I spelled her name wrong. Don't tell nobody. Marjorie Liu,
who is a major comics writer now. She's worked on Silk. She's about to write the Han Solo miniseries, which people weren't excited about the Han Solo miniseries, but as a woman, I am excited that a woman is writing a Han Solo story. Because that I have faith in. This suddenly became not a story where I think Han Solo is gonna hit a Twi'lek or something, just smash that in the middle of the comic all of a sudden. I think Marjorie Liu is gonna write a really good Han story.
Just get real Captain Kirk with it.
Yeah, just get real, because that's what they tried to do with him. Every freaking spin-off story before Han met Leia was I'm so Captain Kirk, and you see him in the movies, and it's you act smooth.
Yeah, he's a dork.
You're a dork, man.
He travels around with his Wookiee friend. When is he hitting that?
He's a dork. So, I'm really excited for this particular take on Han Solo from Marjorie. So if you haven't checked her out, check her out. She's got a lot of Marvel comics, some DC titles, and a lot of indie titles as well. So, yeah.
So I just want to say there's been somebody in the chat all night who's been asking us to answer some questions, but he just now said, look, they can't shut their mouth for 2 seconds to answer a question. Women do love to talk. So we are going to not answer questions this show.
Bye, bitch!
Bye!
Bye, Felipe!
Bye, Felipe.
There's your answer. Fuck off!
So, our next show is March 23rd. Follow at Woman Up Show to find out the topic. We will be announcing it because we forgot to figure that out before doing this, because that's who we are as people. Where can we find you, Tamara? Give us some
You can find me at Misfits Tamara on the Twitters. That's the best place to, hear me rant more or about stuff, or talk about it respectfully. I live tweet a lot of stuff, and happy, fun, good times.
You can find me anywhere on the internet if you search for OhCatrina, Katrina with a C. What else am I doing right now? Go to OhCatrina.com for cool blog posts and vlogs.
I'm laughing because now he's just going on a little temper tantrum. Our mom
I didn't want to wait my turn, so the women's lesbians mad to me.
And when did I ever say you were entitled to ask me a damn thing, sir?
Like,
The
first
mods
off,
have kicked him out. He's not there anymore.
what, oh man,
I know, I'm kinda
call him
sad. Mods
stupid.
are
I'm
gone.
like, are you stupid? Have you never watched the podcast? You wait till the end, you shit.
Right, you
face.
shit.
You shit. I was like, shit face? Shit show?
He's a shit. It's
Shit
fine.
shit.
So you can find us at
That's a terrible Pokemon, by the way.
shit. That's all he does. Shit.
And it's
Guys, we found
he's a flaming
we
bag
found
of
Felicia
poo.
Day's Pokemon.
He's a flaming bag of poo with eyes. And his name is Shit Shit.
Shit. I'm being
Beautiful.
a flaming. This is my flaming bag of poo face. We have a YouTube channel. You should follow it. We do not spam. We post like 4 videos a month. You'll love it. You can follow me at SarahTheRebel. They already told you where to find them. Please also listen to us at allgames.com/whup or at bit.ly/whup iTunes, or you can just go to iTunes and type in Woman Up Podcast now, because that's kind of cool that has suddenly happened. But we'll see you on the 23rd. But until then,
Party down and woman up!
Bye, guys!